Hi, we're back again for the second installment of Artist Talks with the Jurors Invitational. My name is Sean Barnes. I am the gallery coordinator at the Leonore R. Fuller Gallery in the Kenneth J. Menard Center for the Arts at South Puget Sound Community College. Today I'm visiting with local artist Irene Osborn. Irene is an Olympia-based artist working in clay and is an award-winning contributor to the Leonore R. Fuller Gallery. She is also shown many times with the Tacoma Community College Gallery in Tacoma, Washington, as well as with many other group exhibitions in the region. Irene earned her BA in art history and ceramics at Evergreen State College, studying art history with Anne Story and ceramic sculpture with clay artist Mike Moran. She has also studied ceramics locally with Joanne Gaither. Hi, Irene.
Hi, Sean. Nice to meet.
Yeah, nice to meet up here on Zoom, practicing social distancing.
Yes, very much so.
And thank you so much for inviting us into your home today and to talk about your beautiful, beautiful sculptures.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have some questions, but so I figure maybe we could just dive right in. Is that okay?
Yeah. Yes, perfect.
Okay. So I was hoping you could tell us today a little bit about your past, and you have a very unique history, and how it inspires the work you have in this particular exhibit.
Yeah. The series that is in this exhibition is refugees and immigrants and this. And so I was born in 1945, 1 month after my hometown was 90% bombed out. Luckily, we made it, we survived. But my youth was spent, playing in ruins. And also what I thought was very normal, that their food was there, but not in abundance, that when you saw anything on the street, you picked it up, like nails or pencils. So that was a real find, because you couldn't buy those things very easily. And so I was used to not so much stories about the war till later. That came through because my parents tried to protect us. And so, but later it hit home, that the ruins were normal playgrounds, and that really the hardship peoples had gone through. So I basically now realize I grew up with people, surrounded by people that had gone through post-traumatic stress or had it. So airplanes overhead weren't really pleasant for them. And so when the immigration crisis here started, it rang home. My mother's aunt had died in one of those forced immigration marches. And so I just had to express this, how upset I was and emotional, because my parents, so they were anti-Nazi, couldn't express anything. They would have meant they never heard and died, taken away. So I at least can express what I feel in my clay. And that's the only way I can really say things, because if I stay on the street corner, I'm not heard either. Letter to the editor. But the limited exposure I have, I can use with the clay pieces.
Yeah, this really speaks to art's art's healing nature, and a way for us to come to understand something so traumatic. Yeah. And I wouldn't know where to begin to connect with the experiences you've had, but our art's ability to adapt in certain such situations, and to have an effect on others, to communicate those experiences is certainly powerful and expressed in your work. I see it very clearly, and I think many others do. So, with your work coming from this deeply emotional place, and a potentially dark place also to re-enter those emotions when you work. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, in what ways the material you work with, how does clay reflect these experiences for you, like on a material level? And how do you, and then also is kind of a two-part question, then also, how do you approach such an emotional, personal subject?
It's for me, clay. I chose clay because it comes natural to me to form it. It's drawing or painting. It doesn't. I don't feel I can really express what I want, but with the clay, I have the feeling if I work hard enough, I get there. And for the emotional thing, when I'm upset, like, it bothers me, or it's something that I want to bring out, I first think about how to express it. What would the facial expression be? What would the hands do? What would the shoulder? The whole thing has to be of the same emotional impact. You can't have somebody stay there straight and done and then scream. For me, that would be with the hand too. So, and then I work with this series. Usually, I work from the face, and then that tells me where I want to go. But this one, I started with the face, but I wanted an expression, and I knew what I wanted to get. And still, the sculpture told me certain things that I thought would be fine. And then once you start going, you realize, no, the sculpture knows best. The errors might be actually better, but than what you had thought. So I keep an open mind, but that's, and the trouble often is that my kiln is limited. And the power of the clay to stay, not to slump is, you can only go, I think I can go to about 26 inches high. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I would like to go higher also than the weight. And an example of that is this little head. Now, this head would have been in my, plan was a child accompanying the woman with the target on her back, because I thought it's just women and children. So but technical difficulties prevented that.
Yeah. So I'm showing that sculpture here.
Yeah. And so I had to change her hand she was supposed to walk, like a refugee and where would she turn now? She was turned away. She knows the border is thing, and behind her so she would have had a child at her, mm-hmm. On her hand. But
this is the back view there.
Yeah. So the target, you see the target, and that really resonated with me, the target, because the UN had a resolution where they highlighted that women have been targets in wars with rape and awful, and that was vetoed. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't understand how anybody could vote against something so basic as protecting women from the being spoils of war or aggression or whatever.
I feel like we could go in a lot of different directions with that conversation. I mean, your experience, also becoming aware and in the time of second wave feminism, and then all the way to the current time.
Yes. Yes.
But do you have that sculpture in the room with you, right? Target.
The target right behind me. Can you wait a minute?
Get a sense of how tall it is. So this would be about 26 inches, maybe the max it could fit.
Yeah, it was max. But some sculptures. Wait, I have a little trouble with my laptop. Can you see it?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
See? Mm-hmm. And that was a limit. It just fit in the kiln. But there. And I had sculptures where I had to actually add some kiln bricks to make the kiln taller. But that's a big iffy. And then you want to see the one with the separated children? Can you see that one?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to bring that one up on the screen too. One of these has a nice kind of zoom in, although this image is not clear, but just that face in the center in this photo is really striking. But
I tried to make each and every one, obviously I made them all different, but each and one expressing the terrible place they're in, the hardship or the heartbreak, and I don't comprehend why they're there.
So in this work, and even Target kind of reaches over time and history, but this piece in particular, you're referencing something in contemporary history that's happening in this country.
Yeah. What really set it off, detention, what set it off, that is private detention, that the Nazi profited too from from the death camps, and confiscating everything. But this in this country, that there are $740 per day per detainee, if you give that to the detainee, they would be welcome everywhere because they would have money to spend. They could rent, they could do. So that money is sucked from the taxpayer to, the private owners of these terrible places. So that upset me because of the history.
So what is it about, sorry to interrupt, but just thinking about something you said earlier about clay being a preferred medium for talking about these subjects.
Yes.
What is it about clay that does that? I mean, and maybe the way you're making, because I imagine clay and I think earth and water. Yeah. So could you talk a little bit about that, like your experience with the material?
It's just that I like the feel of it, and that with drawing you have only one perspective, This, with the clay you can also have the surprise on the back and the side, and it just feels great to work with it. I love to work with the material.
And so some of your pieces, speaking of sides, different, and exploring the different sides of an object. There's one in particular, just thinking about, like this image here, from family separation, and I wonder if you could talk briefly about, because we don't have much time left, but talk briefly about these open spaces. In these
to me, that's the woman is hollowed out by her experience. She can barely stand up. I mean, their energy is all to save the child that's on the other side. And this is her past. And, there she comes from this destruction, rescuing her child, looking for refuge. And to me, it's like, how can we not help? When we see the refugee, we don't see where they came from and have pity on them. This could have been my mother with the bombs coming down. It just, yeah. And as you see, I don't care if they have the arms, or if, the little boy has no arms because he's helpless in front of the judge. That other one, you have that picture?
Yeah, let me bring that one up. I particularly I'm fond of this piece.
Yeah. And that's, see, I debated a long time what to do with arms, hands, then. And then I said, no, he's just as helpless as can be. So it just doesn't need any.
Yeah. Well, your work is certainly, you know, it's compelling work, and points to, you know, a lot of things that we're all experiencing in some way or another right now. And the world seems to be getting smaller very fast.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
And so, well, in the last minute we have here, is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
No.
Any other work?
I think, no. Actually, that I'm very excited you're doing that, Sean. Thank you. Because obviously I worked very hard the last few months or year, ever since I known, to make new work. And so it's great that this, and it's timely, even in the SARS, with the, not SARS, with the coronavirus, this is still timely stuff. Because now you can say the separation of the children is because of the virus. You know, if you think that if a kid gets the mother gets the virus and the father the kid, what do you do with it? I mean, I didn't make it for that, but it resonates.
Your work certainly does resonate on those levels, and so I thank you so much for sharing that work with us. Yeah, so thank you, Irene.
Thank you very much, Sean, and talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.